Imagine waking beside a fire with no hospital, no antibiotics, no clean water on demand, and no guarantee that tomorrow's meal exists. Somewhere nearby, a child is coughing. Someone else has a wound that is beginning to swell. A storm is moving in. Now ask the obvious question: how long are you likely to live? The popular answer is brutally simple. Ancient humans lived to about 30, then dropped dead. It sounds believable. It is also deeply misleading. A life expectancy of 30 does not mean most people reached 30, developed ancient back pain, complained about the younger generation, and immediately expired. It means death was distributed in a way modern people rarely experience. Many died extremely young. Others survived long enough to become grandparents. The average hides the entire story. Picture a tiny group with 2 newborns. One dies during infancy. The other survives to 60. Their average age at death is 30. Yet nobody in that imaginary group actually dies at 30. That statistical trap is the first reason ancient life feels shorter than it really was. The strongest broad comparison came from anthropologists Michael Gervin and Hillard Kaplan in 2007. They examined mortality patterns across several hunter-gatherer populations. Life expectancy at birth often landed between roughly 21 and 37 years. That sounds terrible because it was terrible. Infant infections, contaminated wounds, childbirth, violence, accidents, hunger, and ordinary bad luck could erase a life before it had properly begun. There was no pediatric intensive care unit waiting beyond the trees. A fever could become a family catastrophe. But here is where the simple version falls apart. Gervin and Kaplan also found that the most common age of death among adults was around 70, often somewhere between the late 60s and late 70s. People who survived childhood were not automatically doomed to die young. Some became genuinely old. This does not mean every ancient camp was filled with cheerful 80-year-olds telling endless stories while everyone pretended to listen. Mortality remained high at every age compared with modern wealthy societies. A broken bone, infected tooth, difficult birth, or violent encounter could still end a life with horrifying efficiency. But the human body itself was capable of lasting far longer than 30 years. That distinction matters. Life expectancy measures the average outcome under dangerous conditions. Lifespan describes how long the organism can potentially survive. Ancient conditions were brutal. Ancient bodies were not disposable. And then the evidence gets stranger. In 2004, anthropologists Rachel Caspary and Sang Hee Lee studied fossil teeth from different periods of human evolution. They compared younger adults with people old enough to have survived well beyond early adulthood. Among earlier human groups, older adults were rare in the fossil record. But during the Upper Paleolithic, the ratio changed dramatically. Far more people were surviving into later adulthood. The researchers argue that this rise in adult longevity may have helped accelerate human culture. Older people carried information. They remembered landscapes, dangerous seasons, food sources, social relationships, and techniques that younger people had not yet learned. An elder was not merely an extra mouth. An elder could be a walking emergency archive. Imagine a drought that happens once every 20 years. A 15-year-old has never seen it. A 45-year-old may remember where water remained the last time the rivers failed. That memory can become the difference between migration and collapse. Long life did not merely reward civilization. Long life may have helped make more complex culture possible. But a skeptic should interrupt here. Fossils are incomplete. Teeth do not come with birthdays printed on them. Archaeologists estimate age using wear, development, and skeletal changes, all of which can blur older individuals into broad categories. Burial practices also distort the sample. Some bodies were preserved. Most vanished. Modern hunter-gatherers are not frozen replicas of the Stone Age either. They live in present-day environments shaped by trade, displacement, disease, government pressure, and contact with surrounding societies. So perhaps these comparisons tell us less about ancient humans than people want them to. That criticism is real. There is no single number for ancient human lifespan, because there was no single ancient human life. A Neanderthal in Ice Age Europe, a Homo sapiens child in tropical Africa, and a farmer in an early crowded settlement faced different risks. Even within one community, sex status, climate, conflict, pregnancy, injury, and food availability could bend the odds. The surviving skeletons are fragments, not a census. Yet the skeptical explanation cannot erase the larger pattern. Human beings evolved an unusually long adult life compared with other primates. The puzzle is not simply why so many died young. The deeper puzzle is why those who survived could remain useful for decades after reaching maturity. A 2012 analysis led by Oscar Berger placed human mortality in a wider evolutionary context. It found that hunter-gatherer death rates were vastly higher than those in modern industrial societies, especially during childhood. Yet their survival still exceeded that of wild chimpanzees across much of life. In other words, ancient humans lived in lethal conditions while carrying bodies already built for unusual longevity. That longevity probably came from several forces working together. Humans shared food. They cared for injured group members. They protected children for an absurdly long developmental period. They accumulated knowledge that became more valuable with age. Older adults could gather, teach, negotiate, remember, repair relationships, and recognize patterns invisible to the inexperienced. Natural selection does not preserve old age because old age is sentimental. It preserves traits when those traits help genes continue. A grandmother who helped feed grandchildren could increase their survival. An older man who remembered a distant water source could protect relatives. A skilled craftsperson could teach methods that took years to master. Culture made older people valuable, and older people made culture stronger. This created a strange human feedback loop. Longer lives allowed more knowledge to accumulate. More knowledge improved survival. Better survival allowed more people to live longer. The campfire became a kind of external nervous system, where one person's memory could outlive the moment that created it. Still, ancient old age was not modern retirement. There were no glasses, blood pressure pills, joint replacements, or soft supermarket calories. Teeth wore down. Arthritis accumulated. Old injuries returned. Hearing faded. Infection remained a constant threat. An ancient person at 60 may have possessed extraordinary knowledge while living inside a body shaped by decades of strain. And some people reached ages that would still seem respectable now. Others died before learning to speak. Both facts are true at the same time. That is the uncomfortable answer. When someone says ancient humans lived only 30 years, they are compressing a landscape of dead infants, vulnerable mothers, injured adults, resilient survivors, and rare elders into one tidy average. The number is mathematically useful and emotionally deceptive. Modern medicine did not suddenly invent the possibility of living past 60. It made survival less dependent on luck. Clean water, vaccination, antibiotics, safer childbirth, reliable food, sanitation, and emergency care closed many of the traps that once killed people early. The greatest modern achievement is not that humans can become old. It is that becoming old is no longer unusual. So return to that fire. The child coughing nearby might recover. The wounded adult might not. The oldest person in the group may have lived through 50 winters and may know exactly what the coming storm means. Your ancestors did not inhabit a world where everyone died at 30. They inhabited a world where death attacked early and often, but where surviving long enough could transform a person into memory, strategy, and living history. The real question is not whether ancient humans could grow old. It is how much human knowledge depended on the few who did.